Welcome to the MeltDown. We're talking the business of sports with host Vince Thompson, the president, founder, and CEO of Melt, one of the leading sports marketing companies in the country.
Welcome back to the MeltDown. We got a lot of ground to cover this week. This week could be a little bit different format. We're going to melt down a lot of the hot topics breaking today. We're going to cover some new ground in the MeltDown. But first, don't forget to follow me on social media, Facebook at Vinny Inc., Instagram at Vinny Inc., Twitter at Vinny Inc., and LinkedIn Vince Thompson. And don't forget the new book, Bill brand new, on pre-order at Amazon right now. We'll talk about that in just a few moments. Special guest we've got today, former Melt U intern Corey Burke, fresh in from the Denver Nuggets. Kyle Orr, Melt U 19, Corey was 17. Zach Cates, David Cohn, shout out to our producer, David Culverson, Dave Hammock, the great voiceover, my son Stefan Carter in from UGA, and Manny, the brilliant graphics guy, and Bing Crosby in from Texas. So we're going to holler filmmaker now. So we're going to jump right into this thing today. Breaking news. Is the Big Ten ready to play some football? Inquiring minds want to know. You'll recall we talked about how Commissioner Kevin Warren laid a big egg a few weeks ago. And apparently we weren't the only ones that thought that. And so many students, student athletes, Justin Field, coaches, athletic directors, parents, and even the president reined in and rained down on Commissioner Warren. So looks like cooler heads prevailed and finally wised up. And those guys are going to play some ball in just a few weeks, just in time to make it into the CFP rankings and consideration, because it probably would have been 3 SEC teams and an ACC team, Clemson. So couldn't stand that up there in the old Rust Belt. Even caught on a hot mic, the Chancellor of Nebraska saying, hey, we're going to play a little football. So, you know, the great thing about it is, in spite of all the debate, at the end of the day, these kids really just wanted to play. And now they're going to get their put to play. What are the details? Weekend of October 23rd, 24th. These weekends are going to be amazing. NFL, college football, the Masters, horse races, NBA, MLB, Fall Classic, PGA. I mean, it's just amazing. If you're a sports fan or a viewer, can't go to a lot of places. NFL, but if you play fantasy or you wager, it's absolutely nirvana for a sports fan, fantasy fan, or a wager. 8-game conference schedule, all conference beginning 10-23-24, will culminate on December the 19th with the Big Ten title game, which also happens to be the same day of the SEC championship and others, and rapid daily testing beginning at the end of the month. So at the end of the day, the kids just wanted to play. The NCAA was up front and first and foremost in front of Congress this week, talking about this big issue that we're talking about, name, image, and likeness. And it's coming like a freight train. Many states have already passed legislation, and so there's a rush in Congress to codify a federal version of this, so there will be a uniform standard applied to all the student athletes. But a lot of interesting discussion going on in Congress. Even, goodness sakes, a cap on coaches' salaries. Now, there's no question of the value in the billions that Coach Saban and Coach Swinney and Dabo and Malzahn bring to their respective universities, from a fundraising, alumni, academic recruiting. I mean, you can look at these giant stats of what the economic impact that Coach Saban has made in the state of Alabama, Tuscaloosa, and the University of Alabama, and academically, and the programs and all that. But when you begin to get this much disparity in the dollars, and the kids don't have the ability to sort of monetize their platform, you're going to have these types of discussions. And maybe that's really not totally a bad thing. As we've been saying all along, there's going to be seismic shifts in the collegiate student athlete business model. As we talked last week in Trevor's Bill of Rights, they are coming like a freight train in favor of the student athletes. And like I said, I've been working with student athletes for 4 decades since I stepped on the campus of Auburn University, and I've always been an advocate for their rights. I know they get great scholarships, great facilities, and all those types of things, but when you have that much of an imbalance or an equity of the dollars distributed, you're going to have these types of discussions. So it's all a positive. Are athletic directors using COVID, God forbid, as a cover to cancel non-revenue sports? Guys, why don't we do a little something different? Let's use the University of Minnesota, for example. I was interviewed by a business paper in Minnesota this week and had a really interesting conversation because we all understand that football drives a majority of the revenue from television rights, sponsor rights, donor tickets, and all of that. But why penalize these great kids who practice and work and compete just as hard as football players and basketball players? Why don't we come up with a new way? So let's use Minnesota as a model. Major corporations in Minnesota. Let's use Target as an example. Target could infuse these non-revenue programs with value in kind, all types of products. It's a big box retailer, so it's non-competitive to any of their categories. I'm sure PJ Fleck's an amazing progressive coach. He's been an advocate for mental health. If these kids aren't playing, it's going to impact their mental health. Target could sponsor these teams. They're men and women. There's so many different areas of the store: school books, school notes, notepads, fashion, sneakers, backpacks, groceries, and all these types of things. And Target, we could build it out. And then not only that, use it as a career development opportunity, internships, career fairs, jobs, placement, and all that. Why don't we look at something different, a new model, not just canceling them outright? Now, should they reshift and reshuffle the scheduling? Would it make sense that somebody at Minnesota in the Big Ten would travel 1,000 miles away to compete in Texas, say, for instance, or Ohio? Maybe, maybe not. So let's think about the efficiencies in there as well. If you cut down those hard costs but still allow them to compete, there's just so many ways that we could be doing that, because at the end of the day, and let's pass NIL now. Let the kids get paid now and offset some of those costs as well. But anyway, there's got to be a different way. And I challenge all athletic directors, all athletic departments, and the coaches to say, hey, let's try a few things a little different. Is Notre Dame playing a new sponsorship game at a new level? For many, many years, the most traditional of them all, the Fighting Irish, are now evolving as a leader in this space. You'll recall this past weekend, it's usually the All-State net, but there was a graphic animation of State Farm. Not an actual net, but a graphic animation, which was timed perfectly in there. And a custom beer marketing package. If you haven't seen those logos and graphics and how that can is superimposed in the Notre Dame helmet, it really, really, really is amazing. So kudos to AD Jack Swarbrick, extension of Brian Kelly. I've known Mr. Swarbrick for many, many years. He was counsel for the NCAA. We did a lot of work together. We famously produced a John Mellencamp concert together in 2006 in the Monument Circle in Indy. So he is a forward thinker, and we're going to talk about the dark horses for the ACC commissioner in just a few moments, but don't count Jack Swarbrick out of that race either. And kudos to the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. They really did a tremendous job this week of hosting ESPN College Game Day. Very forward thinking, obviously. Ben Sutton, who founded ISP, great alumni. I'm sure he had a hand in the thinking of that. The innovation of being able to download your image, your cardboard image, and put it in the stands. I mean, we're all trying to be innovative here. We're all trying to do the drive-in tailgating. We're all trying to be a part of this action. Fans are coming back to these towns just to want to be a part of it, and hopefully continuing to loosen up safe attendance restrictions within the environment. But they've sold 1,000 of these cardboard cutouts, generated $90,000. Maybe some of those dollars could go back into the non-revenue sports as well, because back to non-revenue, you're possibly cutting out a pipeline into U.S. Olympic sports and training and teams. So we've got to look at this from a much broader perspective, and maybe the Olympic sponsors, many of whom don't sponsor college football, some do, lean in and help these programs as well. And I've talked to several of our clients and some of the CEOs and CMOs in the industry and CEOs, and they love this forward thinking. So we've got to keep continuing to get this discussion in the vernacular. Who are my dark horses for the ACC? Mr. Swarbrick, Notre Dame, Burke Magnus. Number 3, number 4 guy, great guy, ESPN. He's up on an upcoming podcast on MeltU. My dear friend, Charlie Hussey, the deputy commissioner of the SEC, or Ben Sutton, as we mentioned, the founder and pioneer of ISP and IMG College, Teal Capital. Nobody loves the game greater than Ben Sutton. Those are my three dark horses. We'll see if they go traditional. Dan Radakovich, he's an innovative guy at Clemson. So we'll see, but it's going to be fascinating because that's a big thing. And I can promise you there's going to be, not only was there scrutiny already, but if you look at what happened with placing Kevin Warren in the Big Ten, there's a lot of scrutiny in here as well. And I think Commissioner Warren will wound up being a tremendous commissioner. Stepping from the NFL to the college space, it was a tremendous transition. And, unfortunately or fortunately for him, he had to do a lot of learning on the job, drinking from a fire hose. And at the end of the day, we'll let him off the mat a little bit because we're playing some football. The first wagering sponsorship in colleges in the country, University of Colorado and PointsBet, with wagering legalizing every month in more and more states. Expect to see this as an emerging giant new revenue and sponsorship category for college athletics. Think about even 3 years ago or 5 years ago, we wouldn't be having conversations about beer sponsorships, hard seltzer, or legal wagering. What is next and what won't not be next, shall we say. But with the revenue shortfalls in many, many athletic departments, expect to see a lot of these. They're going to be big. They're going to be new money. Will there be wagering stations in college football stadiums one day? Maybe, maybe not. But it is a great source of revenue. It generates fan interest. It generates eyeballs. It generates views. It generates great revenue, tax revenue for the teachers and all of that stuff. And I believe we can keep the integrity of this. But this was big, brand new news. And the credit to the University of Colorado for being sort of out in front of that. IMG Learfield did the deal, and obviously there's some of the best. Some of my friends over there are the best at what they do. When is NCAA basketball starting? That's the next great big debate. When and where? What are we hearing? Is it a bubble? Is it within conferences only? Because we do know there's got to be in some form March Madness and Final Four this year. There was an over $1 billion revenue hit from the Turner and CBS rights monies that didn't go into the NCAA coffers, that didn't go into the school coffers. So this is a big tip in to keep. We think it's November 11th, but now we're hearing it right around Thanksgiving, November 25th. So can you imagine not only all the plethora of sports programming, then we add college basketball. It's going to be amazing. And look what ESPN is doing. They're moving all of their ESPN-owned and operated tournaments to Orlando in the bubble again. There's no secret that Disney owns Disney World, and they own ABC, and they own ESPN, and they own all the programming to these basketball tournaments. So Orlando, thankfully, has emerged as a hub. Obviously, the NBA was very successful. MLS was very successful. But the Battle of Atlantis in South Dakota? Huh? We used to work on the Battle of Atlantis in the Popeyes Bahamas Bowl. And South Dakota is an amazing place, but probably might be a little chillier in South Dakota than the old Battle for Atlantis this year. But a great lineup and great teams, and it just shows you the ingenuity of what everybody is trying to do to get college athletics and student athletes back on the playing field, back on the court, and back on the diamond. Our parting shot is Bubba Wallace, Denny Hamlin, and the GOAT, Michael Jordan, forming a NASCAR team. Sources say yes. Some say no. My bet is yes. What Bubba did with sponsorships, bringing in new sponsors, Beats by Dre, others. He's in the Coke family of drivers, McDonald's, opening up brand new audiences for NASCAR. Very smart people at NASCAR, very smart people in Daytona, very smart people in Charlotte. Keep your eye on this one. We've talked about it before. But that's the meltdown for today. I'm Vince Thompson, founder, chairman, CEO of Melt. Sports marketing, entertainment, culinary, we're melting it down for you. And as I said, follow us on social media at Vinny Inc. Don't forget the book, Build Brand New, your guide to personal branding and building your personal brand and development to land an internship or that first job in a brutal COVID job market in our industries. It's available for pre-order right now at Amazon.com. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week on The Meltdown.
Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at MeltATL, and follow Vince at Vinny Inc. and on LinkedIn as Vince Thompson.